Hi, this is another edition of The Spectre, and this is D.S. Yoxheimer, and I'm going to be talking about the new Joker movie, starring Joaquin Phoenix. I just saw it this evening. I'm happy to report the theater was not shot up with an AK-47 by a deranged incel. Even though I find that term offensive, incel, by the way. Speaking of deranged, let's talk about Joaquin Phoenix portrayal of the Joker. Of course, you know, you make immediate comparisons to Heath Ledger's portrayal, and they are different. There's been comparisons to the movie Taxi Driver, which I've seen the movie Taxi Driver. It's kind of like that. Gotham City looks a little like the New York City portrayed in Taxi Driver. They use like cars from like several different decades, like from the 70s to, you know, the 90s. It seems nobody has a cell phone, and you see Arthur Fleck, who becomes the Joker, you know, using a phone booth a few times in the film. So as far as technology goes, there's no flat screens in this movie either. There's old tube TVs, you know, like from the 80s and 70s. It looks more like the 70s. So anyway, basically Arthur Fleck is a clown for hire. He works for some, you know, there's some sort of clown talent agency, and as you see in the trailer, he plays with the street sign, and he gets the shit beat out of him and stuff like that. He's basically has this sort of very humiliating existence. He has mental illness, or he has mental health issues, obviously. He sees a social worker, and basically, you know, after he gets beat up, things kind of unravel from there. You know, he wants to be a stand-up comedian, and he's just seeking more validation, I guess, basically. You know, he's someone who doesn't have much money. He lives with his aging mother, and all that, and so he's just, you know, obviously you can see where this guy would sort of, you know, deteriorate emotionally and psychologically. Basically, that's what's going on in this movie. It's not like Heath Ledger's Joker, where he's fully realized and capable. He just is, you know, doing what the Joker does successfully. It's just, you know, be an absolute menace and be treacherous and everything like that. Or certainly not like Jared Leto's Joker from Suicide Squad, which I think this movie was serving as a repudiation of that. So, and with that said, we also, I wasn't sure how much of Batman's story was going to be in this movie, but it is. This Batman is, like, as a little kid, you see Bruce Wayne, and his dad is in this movie, and he is an unsympathetic character, to say the least. He's a fucking prick. So, which is a departure from, you know, other portrayals of Thomas Wayne. Usually he's this, you know, philanthropist and this benevolent, you know, he helps the people of Gotham, and he gets killed, and he's this brave father and shit. No, he's like Donald Trump. He's an asshole. And Bruce you see in 2 scenes as a little kid, and you see the father in a couple of scenes. So, but most of the time it's focused on Arthur Fleck, just descending into his, you know, whatever his mental illness, or basically however his mental illness would be classified as. He has sort of this condition where it makes it uncontrollable. He has this uncontrollable laughter. He can't stop laughing. So that's part of his problem. And there is a condition, actually, but it's usually associated with dementia, I think, but I don't know the actual clinical term off the top of my head. So he just has these times when he has these laughing sort of fits, kind of like the Joker. It's hard to, you know, I just saw this movie, and sometimes it takes a lot longer for a film like this to kind of set in for me to really say whether I think it's good or not. Do I think it's overhyped? Yes, it is. I think it's very overhyped, and I think part of and a lot of the hysteria around, there's going to be a shooting, because of what happened in Aurora, Colorado. I think there was some of that too. There were article after article of it, which I thought was kind of irresponsible to do that. When you watch the movie, it all feels a little bit more benign because I've seen way more disturbing horror movies, and I know this is a bigger movie. It's a DC movie. It's a big character. I came home and watched some horror movie which is a way more disturbing horror movie about a killer clown than this film. But this movie it had some, it was sort of realistically disturbing in some ways. But at the same time, it was like I wasn't. It was almost like it was. Am I supposed to be taking this movie this seriously, or is it more of a joke? I didn't really know quite how to take it. Basically, I mean, it didn't like. It didn't really take me to that place where I felt, wow, this is so fucking disturbing or whatever. I thought Joaquin's performance was pretty cool, and everything, and the look of the movie was cool. I think they had certain things down. The movie builds to him becoming the Joker. Of course, most of the time you just see him as himself. He doesn't have makeup on. He has the clown costume on at work. He loses his job because one of his co-worker or one of his co-clowns at the whatever you want to call it, agency that he works for, gave him a gun to protect himself, and he was doing. This is actually a funny scene when he's dancing around at this children's hospital performing for the kids. The gun falls out on the floor, and he grabs it and tries to act like nothing happened, and then he loses. He basically gets fired by his boss fires him, calls him up, or he calls his boss and on a payphone, and he fires him, and of course Joaquin still has the gun, and he leaves. He cleans out his locker where he works, and he accuses the guy of giving him the gun, that basically saying, yeah, you gave me that gun. And before this happens, of course, he shoots 3 people on the subway, which were Wayne Enterprise employees. And his mother is obsessed with Thomas Wayne and claims that she had an affair with him or whatever, and had a kid with him, which she didn't, as it turns out. And this is spoilers, okay, from here out. That'll be under the video anyway, but this is all spoilers because it's the only way I know how to really talk about this, because there's been a lot of really mixed criticisms of this movie, and I think the only way, and you've probably already seen it if you're watching this video. So basically, this is kind of a way to respond to what critics have said about it, is talk about some of the plot points. Okay, so he is someone who is mentally ill, and he finds out who his mother really, the kind of person she really was or is. She had a boyfriend. He was abandoned. He was left abandoned. The Joker, Arthur Fleck, and his mother Penny adopted him. She was in Arkham, what they call it, Arkham State Hospital at the time. Which is really what it is anyway. Arkham Asylum is a state psychiatric hospital. And they do give it this, because I've been in abandonment, basically an asylum before, so it does have that feel to it. So he gets the records from the hospital, yanks it out of this guy's hands, and finds out, that he was adopted and all this stuff really happened and everything like that. So he after that, his mother has a stroke. He smothers her, And then he's home for a while after he does this, after he kills his mother in the hospital. He gets a phone call from this late night, like Johnny Carson like show he watches called the Murry Franklin Show, which is hosted by Murry Franklin, who is played by Robert De Niro, who was in Taxi Driver, which I guess this film is somewhat inspired by. And he, because he saw some of his stand-up in the club, there was some tape of it or something like that. And so he, Arthur goes, by the time, this comes around, Arthur kind of starts a movement because of the three executives from Wayne Enterprises who were killed. Just a lot of the poor downtrodden people taking it out on the 1%, starting a movement, wearing the clown mask because he was dressed in his clown getup from work when he shot these guys. So he before he goes on the talk show, which is really what this all culminates into, it's just a lot of him losing his mind, things happening. He actually goes to, I'll mention this is one of the events that happens. He goes to Wayne Manor, where Bruce is like playing just towards, where the gates are, and he sees him and he puts on a little rubber nose and gets out a little magic wand and where flowers pop out and stuff like that. And it's the scene where you see in the trailer where he puts a smile on his face, and he claims, I'm assuming Alfred, this British guy, comes out. Probably Alfred. He never identifies himself as such, but you assume it's him. But the thing that's funny is there's like a play, kind of this playhouse castle or whatever that young Bruce was playing on, and he slides down a pole, which is sort of a nod to the 1960s Adam West series. So I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, he grabs Alfred and kind of, hold of him through the gate and then lets him go and takes off. He does a lot of stuff without him getting arrested first. So, anyway, eventually, he's at his apartment putting on the makeup and everything, and he gets knocked at the door, and it's the big guy he worked with who gave him the gun, and there's a little person who he also worked with at the agency, and they both come in, and they were trying to get their stories straight because the gun was used in the crime. So Joaquin already has like his hair dyed green, he's white, he's sort of final manifestation of turning into the Joker, and he just brutally kills the guy. He stabs him in the eye and smashes his head into the wall, and he lets the little guy go, strangely, but the little guy didn't do anything to him. The other guy sort of snitched on him and trust him, I guess. So anyway, and this version of the Joker, you see him kind of doing this weird, slow, odd dance, after he kills somebody and stuff like that. And he's smoking a cigarette, and it's just it's pretty fucked up, It's not as, Heath Ledger's Joker was that terrifying, but it was also humorous. And this guy, there's humor to it, but he's definitely like, in real life you would just see, oh god, this guy is like criminally insane. So he winds up, after that, getting to this late night talk show with the clown makeup and basically the suit. And after these two detectives chase him down because they think he's the guy that killed the Wayne Enterprise executives, and he gets on the Murry Franklin show. And it's fun. Strangely enough, Mark Maron plays like some kind of producer, because he's always notably said on every talk show that he doesn't like comic book movies. So I thought it was funny he was in this one. Even though I wouldn't classify this one as totally a comic book movie. But anyway, on the show, he comes out, he says some disturbing jokes, he basically admits that he killed those three executives, and then gets out the gun and just puts a bullet in, Robert De Niro's head, and everybody runs, and there's just rioting in the streets and all that shit, and he gets arrested. He's in the back of a police car, and an ambulance hits it, and some of the other rioters who are wearing clown masks pull him out, and he gets up and he's just kind of on the hood standing up, like, you know, and all this thing. And all the while this is happening, you see Bruce Wayne and his parents leave the theater, and of course they get shot by some guy in a clown mask. And you see Bruce kind of standing there, and he's you know, at the end of the movie, standing there before his, you know, dead parents' bodies in Crime Alley, of course. And, you know, the Joker was on top of the car while he's, you know, there's just fire and everything and rioting going on. And he winds up in a, you know, Arkham again at the end. And he's getting interviewed by a nurse, and presumably he kills her, and then he's walking up the hallway, and you just see these bloody footprints, and he's getting chased back and forth, and he's just doing this weird dance. And that's the movie. I mean, that's, you know, of course not all of it. It's worth seeing, I think. And it's still honestly hard to give my impression of it. I mean, I think it's in response to they made a movie like this in a response to, like, the Ben Affleck Batman and the Jared Leto Joker, you know, because they just sucked. And so they made this, which is a head scratcher in a way too. I mean, it's I can't give it an A+, certainly not. I mean, I would give it more of a, as of now, I would give it a B. And because it was just, you know, it wasn't like The Dark Knight where I just immediately liked it, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, wow, great fucking flick. And there was just some, you know, parts of it that felt like they may have been weak links. And but overall, yeah, I would have to give this movie a B. I mean, here's just like a quick comparison. This is like the recent 3 Jokers. This is, you know, like Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, and Jared Leto. So yeah, I'd have to right now say my favorite would be Heath Ledger. But I think this is like an interesting character study. It's not really like a comic book action movie, you know. I mean, it doesn't really have that. It doesn't deliver there. You look at it more as, I mean, that's what they were making. So I think there's going to be a very wavering opinion of this movie in the coming months. You know, it's just after it sort of sets in. That's my opinion of it. My name's D.S. Yoxheimer. This has been another edition of the Spectre. If you have any thoughts about the Joker movie, leave your comments below. If you like my channel, subscribe and like. Thanks for watching.